1 minute to open.
Well, good afternoon, my friends. This is Blazers Game Day. I am your host, Chad Doing, where tonight your Portland Trailblazers will play the second of a back-to-back in Memphis against the Grizzlies. And the good news, as it was just pointed out to me, the Blazers have the best record in the NBA in the month of March. Of course, today is March 2nd, but we got to build off of something. But the Trailblazers last night really a great team win with a number of guys out of the lineup. No Scoot, no Brogdon, no Ayton, and everybody else. Not Grant, not Simons, but all of the role guys stepped up and played extremely well. And of the two factors I was really looking for going into the game last night, rebounding, making sure that they, really placed an emphasis on that. They were plus 16 in rebounding and pulled down 16 offensive rebounds. Terrific. I wanted to see better ball movement and more guys involved. They dished out 31 assists and also make sure to protect the basketball. And they did a good job. Just 14 turnovers, avoided some of those nasty live ball turnovers, which lead to easy buckets for the opposition. And the Blazers able to shoot the ball well. They were on fire in the second half. They connected on 41% of their threes. Great job in rebounding. They shared the basketball, and multiple guys able to step up and help them get the win. So hopefully we will see more of the same tonight. And with the Trailblazers, I want to see how they respond after the success we saw last night in the victory over Memphis. How do you respond to that? How do you respond? Can they put together back-to-back good efforts? And can we see more of those role players step up and make plays? And the great thing about the game last night, contributions across the board. Dewap Reef broke out of a shooting slump, 18 points, 5 rebounds. They were led by Jabari Walker, 19 points, 10 rebounds off the bench. 19 points, 7 rebounds from Delano Banton. And in the starting lineup, Chris Murray finally able to make some shots, 14 points on 5 of 8 shooting. So multiple guys able to step up and get it done. The Trailblazers now with 24 games remaining and all 24 vital for the young guys to continue to take advantage of the opportunity they've got to be able to go out there and showcase what they can do. Delano Banton has done nothing but help himself since he arrived right there before the deadline in Portland. He's played well. He's been aggressive, not afraid to attack the hoop, and showcasing his length and athleticism. And for Chris Murray, he's got to try and, string them together. Had a good performance last night. Let's see what he can do tonight. I would anticipate the same starting lineup with Reef playing at center in place of Ayton, Kamara, Grant, Murray, and Simons most likely that will be your starting five. All right, Blazers game day. Here's what we got planned. We'll step into the coach's corner. We'll hear from Chauncey Billups. We'll give you an update on Scoot with What's the Scoot. We'll give you an NBA scoreboard report. And we'll get you set for tip-off, which is coming up at 5. My man Curtis Long, the principal, standing by. He'll have your Trailblazer pregame show coming up at 4 across the Trailblazer radio network. But first, let's go back and relive what went down last night. There haven't been too many of these type of moments throughout the course of the season, but the Blazers last night recorded their biggest win in terms of margin of victory. And it was really a slow start to the game. It took a while to get the offense going in this one. The Blazers and Grizzlies both shot well below 40% in the first quarter, and it's like, oh, no, here we go again. Portland jumped out. They built a 15-12 lead early, but the Grizzlies used the final 3:05 of the first quarter to go on a 9-2 run and led 21-17 at the end of the first. The Blazers then used the first 6 minutes of the second quarter to go on a 26-14 run, taking a 43-35 lead. The Blazers would go on to score 34 points in the second, taking a 51-45 lead into halftime, thanks to Anthony Simons.
6 seconds left in the half. Simons across the timeline. He attacks, drives, dunks it in! Coast to coast for the pair for Anthony Simons. Down to 1. Jackson puts up the heave from half court, and that is how the first half will come to a close.
Portland shot 44% in the first half. They forced 12 turnovers. Jeremy Grant led the team with 10, and Matisse Thybulle had 9. The Blazers kept the pressure on in the third, going on a 15-7 run in the first 3 minutes of the quarter, pushing their lead to double digits at 66-52, capped off by the rookie, Chris Murray.
One bounces, pass deflected and stolen. Here's Murray in the front court, the drive and the slam with 2 hands as Aldama tried to chase him from behind and couldn't catch up.
Oh, I didn't know Chris Murray had that nasty in him.
Later in the third, Duop Reif, who broke out of his shooting slump last night, did his job to help keep the Trailblazers in front.
Here's Reif, wing 3 on the way, buries it, and that snaps the 9-0 run for Memphis.
Boy, the Blazers offense was on fire in the third, with everyone getting into the mix, including Delano Banton.
Out on the perimeter, throws it underneath, deflected by Thybulle, picked up by Higgins, leads it to Grant, 2-on-1, the lob to Banton, dunks it home! Timeout Memphis with $1:14 to play in the third. Defense leading to offense, Matisse Thybulle gives it up. Blazers have scored 8 in a row to lead it by 16.
Portland connected on a ridiculous 78% of their shots in the third, 15 of 19 from the field. They scored 40 points, highest third quarter of the season, and pushed their lead to 19 at 91-72 entering the fourth. The Duop Reif had 12 points in the quarter on 3 of 3 shooting. The Blazers then went out, opened up the fourth, determined to end their 9-game losing streak.
Rebound Walker, another offensive rebound. Beautiful pass to Thybulle, who dunks it in. Timeout Memphis, 29 seconds into the fourth. 21-point Trailblazer lead, 93-72.
The Blazers then put the game away with a 17-4 run to start the fourth quarter, and that was that. And it was Delano Banton who able to provide the icing.
Banton with his 7th rebound of the night. That is a new season high for Delano Banton. 12 seconds to shoot. Screen comes to the right. Top of the key. Banton a deep 3. Yes, sir! Delano Banton, 19 points, a new season high. Timeout Memphis. It is 108-76 Trailblazers with 7:14 to play in the fourth quarter.
And with that, Portland got their largest margin of victory, 122-92. They snapped a 9-game losing streak. Delano Banton and Jabari Walker each with 19. Duop Reif had 18. And after the game, Chauncey Billups talked about the win.
We did it together. It's just good to kind of get that monkey off your back, if you will. You know, we've been playing so hard and I think we've been playing well. You know, we just haven't been able to come out with a victory, you know, in quite a while. So it's good for that to happen for us. I mean, there's so many guys. They all contributed in the game, but I mean, I thought Chris, you know, obviously a career high for him. He continues to just keep getting better. He did a really good job tonight. I mean, Ashton, 3 blocks. I mean, that dude is just a little pit bull. You know, I just love him. He leaves it out there every single time. But so many guys, I thought Moses' minutes were huge for us. Just getting him back into the lineup, having that type of size and rebounding, and he finished around the basket was good for us as well. Jabari gets a double-double. So many guys played well. We created, you know, a lot of opportunities, and we obviously shot it well, you know, tonight from 3. and that a lot of times has kind of failed us lately. We have just hadn't shot it great, but played pretty good. So it was good to get that one, and hopefully our guys get some rest, and we look forward to the challenge again tomorrow.
One of the bright things that came out of the victory last night was the Blazers' defensive effort. They were connected. They forced a number of turnovers, 23 of them to be exact, and converted that into 27 points. That's the type of effort you want to see from this group. And Chauncey talked about the effort defensively.
Well, that's kind of what we try to hang our hat on that side of the ball. That's the one thing that there's so many things in the game that you can't control. Shot making, if the ball's going to go in the basket. I think defensively you can control your effort, and that's what we try to do, every single night. And tonight we did. We guarded pretty well. I thought we finished our defensive possessions with rebounds. So we was all over the place. We had so many guys. We picking up the floor, full court, and just laying it on the line. And we live with the results.
And finally, from Chauncey Billups, he discussed the play of Delano Banton, 19 points, 7 rebounds. He's really done a heck of a job coming over to a new team and still getting a feel for his teammates and the offensive sets and just adjusting to a whole new situation, and he's played pretty well.
He got a knack to score the ball, and I always want him to be aggressive. He got a nice feel for the game out there. He knows how to get to the basket. He does a good job of drawing fouls, but he also can play make some. So he came into the game, and I thought his minutes were huge for us because there are times that you got to sit Anthony and you got to sit Jeremy, and you're looking around saying where we're going to get some offense from. And he steps right in and does a really good job of he stayed poised out there. So, yeah, he was also big.
All right, so of all the different things you want to see from this group right now, you want to see them execute defensively. They were able to do that last night. You want to see them share the basketball, 31 assists. They need to rebound as a team without DeAndre Ayton on the floor. They did that. They were plus 16 in rebounds. Another strong performance on the offensive glass. And just a lot of good things. 23 turnovers they forced. So all in all, a good effort. That third quarter was sick. 78% shooting. You're going to win a lot of games when you can put together an entire quarter where you put up 40 points and shoot 78% on 15 of 19 from the floor. They outscored the Grizzlies 71-47 in the second half. The latest injury report, more of the same for your Portland Trail Blazers. Malcolm Brogdon still out with the elbow tendonitis. Scoot Henderson is out tonight with a left adductor strain. Shaden Sharp and Robert Williams, of course, are out. DeAndre Ayton is listed as doubtful with the hand sprain. And they've got Minaya, who's on a G League two-way. So shorthanded tonight. I would expect the same lineup, and we'll see if we can get similar results from this group as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. The Trailblazers will play the second of a back-to-back tonight, and then they move on to Minnesota, where they will take on the Timberwolves on Monday. Same tip time, 5 o'clock. I'll have game day Monday at 2:30. And then the Blazers come back home, and they host Oklahoma City on Wednesday. That will kick off a 6-game homestand. So the season is rapidly coming to an end. The Blazers have 24 games to go. The season will end on April 14th, and it's going to be a big blur between now and then because they're going to have a ton of games. But an opportunity for Portland tonight to continue to piece together the different things that Chauncey Billups and his staff wants them to do. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on Game Day. Chad Doing and Michael Shacker with you. When we come back, we will hear from Delano Banton. Brooke Olzendam had a chance to catch up with him after the game. We're going to hear from Chris Murray and Jabari Walker a little bit later in the show. And, of course, we'll go into the coach's corner with Chauncey Billups. So when we come back, what's the scoot? We'll give you the latest on Scoot Henderson and everything I've heard in regards to the injury and when to expect him back. And then we'll hear from Delano Banton. It's Game Day. Tip-off with the Blazers and Grizzlies coming up at 5. Curtis Longlive, your Trailblazer pregame show at 4, right here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, here's the latest on Trailblazers rookie guard Scoot Henderson. He's not going to play tonight. I don't expect him to play on Monday against Minnesota. I think he'll return to the lineup on Wednesday against Oklahoma City when the Blazers kick off their 6-game homestand. I guess it's possible he could play on Monday. If it were up to him, based on what I've been told, and Sean Highkin mentioned this a couple of days ago, Scoot Henderson wants to play, but the team is being very cautious, and maybe they're a little more sensitive to these core injuries because they've had a number of them over a very short period of time. So they're just being cautious with Scoot. But I would expect him back in the lineup by Wednesday. And as I mentioned before, it's important for him to be on the floor just so he has, more games to play and to be able to go out there and develop. It's critical for him to be able to, put together and string together more solid performances like we've seen over this recent stretch before the All-Star break. And then he can enter, hopefully, the offseason with confidence and continue to work on his game because it's just vital that he hits. I've mentioned this before, but of all the most important things to watch over the next year or two, Scoot Henderson developing into a primetime player for this team is critical because you may not get another pick that high in the draft. And when you do, you've got to make sure that you cash in on those players. So I want to see Scoot back on the floor. He's my number one reason for wanting to watch him right now because his development has been good as the seasons continue, but they need him to hit. And I feel for him. He's got the right attitude. He works hard. He puts in the time, but, you got to be on the floor and have a chance to play to develop. So frustrating for him and for the Trailblazers that he's not available, but I would expect him back in the lineup by Wednesday when the Blazers host the Oklahoma City Thunder. One of the stars from the game last night, Delano Banton, one of the newest Blazers who came over from Boston at the trade deadline, 19 points, 7 rebounds, including that deep three that provided the icing last night. Brooke Olzendam caught up with him on the floor after the game.
DB, you guys had the lead at the break, and you just continued to build on it. What was key to this very convincing win?
Say that again, excuse me.
That was Ashton, who also had a great game. What was key to this win?
Definitely just staying with what we've been trying to do. Throughout games that we lost, we realized that, with losing, there's consistencies, but we're winning. They might look different every night with the talent that we have. So offensively, talent, it might be a different guy's night every night, but defensively, winning the shot margins, offensive rebounding, transition defense, just trying to do the things that Coach Chauncey preaches to us in practice, preaches to us in film, and try and get it right for 48 minutes, and we're able to do so today.
When you weren't facilitating, you were scoring. You finished with 19 shot, well over 50% from the field. How were you able to take advantage of the defense you saw from Memphis tonight?
Definitely just trusting in my teammates. They put me in positions to be great. I feel like just them trusting in me being able to make a read, make a play for them, goes a long way when you have the confidence of your teammates and your coaching staff. So, shout out to them. They put me in position. And like I said, Coach Chauncey just tries to do his best to play with the players he has. Definitely knows how guys play, knows guys' personnel, and use that to the best of his advantage to get us in spots.
You were 3 of 5 from behind the arc. That last one was my favorite. It was deep. When did you know you were going to shoot it?
I'm not sure when I knew I was going to shoot. I think they just went under and trust the work that they put in. Shooting the pocket three, I put that work in, so I kind of just trying to trust the work that I put in. And, if it feels comfortable to take it, we'll shoot it with confidence.
And finally, I can't tell you how many of his teammates just ran by and said, DB, how much do you like playing with this group?
Man, I love it. The first few weeks been tough with just losses. That changes everybody's mood. Everyone wants to win. It's such a competitive league. But knowing how hard it is to win in this league also. But it's been a great few weeks. The staff, the team, the fans, the organization, everybody took me in with open arms. I'm loving it so far, and just hopefully we could come back tomorrow and get a win and just keep piecing together wins.
Love it. Thank you so much. Great job tonight.
Well, the biggest thing I learned from that is that interviews sound better when Earth, Wind, and Fire is playing in the background. Nice work there. Yeah, Delano Banton is cool. He's worked his tail off since he arrived in town. He's been very productive for the Trailblazers. And the best part for him, whether his future team is here in Portland or it's somewhere else across the league, he's getting a chance to showcase what he can do. So he's going to be able to play his way into an opportunity either here or elsewhere, and that's great. That's the cool part about a team like Portland or these teams that are struggling down the stretch. They put young guys in. If there's injuries, they'll pick up guys who get a chance to play, and they can showcase what they can do. And Delano Banton is making the most of that. And that's really all you can ask for from young guys. It's like, hey, when you get a chance to play and you get a chance to ball, and go out there and make the most of it. And Banton's been able to do that. I like his toughness, his aggressiveness. He's picking up on things quickly. and he was a key part in that victory last night. He and Jabari Walker able to lead the way with 19 points each, 7 rebounds for Banton, able to utilize his size. He's got some good length, so he's showcasing some good things. Man, what a dreadful day outside, by the way. Hideous outside, cold, windy, and rain. Typical early March weather here in the Northwest. I would say of all the different things I'm thinking about right now with this team, one is obviously player development. Chauncey identified that a couple of games ago as being the most important thing down the stretch. Try to balance out development of the young guys and still trying to pursue wins. He says he's trying to do that the best he can. So player development for me is number one. And then after that, I'm just curious how the front office looks at this roster and then thinks about the things that they want to accomplish. I do know that, Malcolm Brogdon will be moved during the summertime. They've got other veteran pieces that could potentially be moved. But outside of player development, the other big thing I'm wanting to watch once we hit the offseason is when is the franchise going to make a decision on their 3 guards? They've got Scoot, they've got Ant, and they've got Shaden Sharp. Those 3 guys as individuals, I like each of them. Big fan of Ant, big fan of Scoot, and Shaden. But most of us look at that and realize that that's not going to last long term. You're not going to be able to keep all 3 players. Ant and Scoot basically play the same position, and I doubt that those 2 guys can work together long term. So at some point, they'll have to make a choice. And it's probably going to come down between Scoot and Ant in terms of what they decide to do. It would seem that Shaden Sharp, at his size and being a true 2, is someone that's going to latch on. Now, from what I've seen in sports throughout the course of time I've been covering it, is that normally front offices, they tend to stick with the guys that they drafted. Scoot, Shaden drafted by Schmitz and Joe Cronin. Anthony Simons was drafted by the previous regime. My guess is it's going to be Scoot and Shaden moving forward. The question is, how much longer can they continue to keep all 3 of the guards? Last year I was told it's probably a 12 to 18-month situation, and now we're reaching the end of the season. Could they potentially make a move during the summertime? Or will they proceed into next year with all 3 guards on the roster and then look to make something happen prior to the deadline? All I know is that time is coming soon, and the franchise is going to have to make a choice so that they can go out and make a move and bring more balance to the roster. I mean, this team's been looking for a small forward or the right pair of starting forwards for a long period of time. So you would think that a forward would be one of their main priorities, their top target in terms of what they want to add to the roster based on what they have right now. They got the center in DeAndre Ayton. They have plenty of guards. They have 2 guys who are likely going to be the starters moving forward. You've got a guy in Jeremy Grant who can play forward right now. I don't expect him to be moved anytime soon. And then what do you have? You need someone to play next to Grant. That's the next piece you need to flesh out the starting lineup. And then with the other guys, Malcolm Brogdon, he'll likely be moved during the summertime because he'll be on an expiring contract and he's not going to be here long term. Then you've got to make decisions on Matisse Thybulle, Robert Williams, and then see where those guys fit. The most interesting part to me is they've got 4 draft picks, 2 firsts, 2 seconds. They're not going to draft 4 players and bring 4 rookies in to the mix. That doesn't make sense. They value young players, so, maybe this will be the summer where they look to do something. Or you could package Ant and something and go out there and bring in the forward you want. So that's what I'm most curious about, how they approach the summertime and when they'll make a decision on which of the 2 guards they want and when they execute a deal to make that happen. And the more I think about it, this is really year 3 of the rebuild, not year 1. Even though this is the first year without Dame, a couple of years ago when they made the decision to draft Shaden Sharp, I think that was the tipping point. That was the decision when they said, okay, we're going to go young and start fresh. And then they got Scoot, and then Dame was traded. So we're really in a year 2 or 3-ish when it comes to the rebuild. So let's see what they do this summer with some of the assets they've acquired. So if you're miserable right now because you buy season tickets and you're tired of the losing and what we've seen the last couple of years, my reason for optimism would be the young players that they have, a potential legit center in DeAndre Ayton, and then the assets that Joe Cronin has accrued. They have draft picks to work with, they have cap flexibility, and they've got veteran pieces that will not be here long-term that can be used in deals to continue to reshape the roster in the image that they want. And hopefully, with the way this season plays out, that they'll be able to hopefully move up in the lottery and then have access to another, high-level player they're looking at in the draft. And we'll see how that all shakes out. But for the Blazers, this could be a pivotal summer in terms of being able to go out and continue to reshape the roster and the image that they're looking for. And we'll see how things shake out. And with 24 games to go, they can collect more data and continue to determine what they have. Now, I know a lot of people, and I think it was Jason Quick who pointed this out, about, he was pretty dead set on being aggressive and moving Ayton as soon as possible. I'm not ready to do that with DeAndre Ayton. They need more time with him as a staff. He needs more time to continue to get a feel for the team and his teammates. It's because it's been such a year of flux with guys in and out of the lineup. And he's too talented. Former number 1 overall pick. He's got size. He's got athleticism. There aren't too many guys at his size that can do what he can do. So I'm going to give him as much time as possible to see if he indeed can show the consistency in terms of engagement to be that type of player. And what he's shown over the last 13 games before this little hand sprain, that's what you like about him. Highly productive as a rebounder, limited as a defender, but a good rim protector, and a guy who can face up and shoot and at times be dominant down low. I'm just not ready to give up too quick on a guy like that. He's too valuable. He's too talented. You got to give it more time. And the coaching staff continue to get a feel for him. But the key will be, I think, with Ayton, how do you keep him engaged when he's not the first option on the floor, but maybe the third option? How do you get him touches, keep him engaged to where he can do the things to help the team and also do the things that you want him to do as a coaching staff when he's not, the first option? Easier a little bit right now because when he's on the floor, he's one of their best options right now. But we've seen the NBA. Unless you're Jokic, you're just not going to be the first option on the floor because you're going to look to your guards. You're going to look to guys who can knock down threes. So how do you keep Ayton engaged and motivated in those type of situations? I think that's going to be critical. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back with a scoreboard report. Tip-off is coming up at 5 o'clock. Curtis Long will have your Trailblazer pregame show at 4. We're still going to hear from Jabari Walker and Chris Murray. And we will step into the coach's corner and hear from Billups as well. Chad Doing with you. It's Game Day on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, checking the NBA scoreboard for you on this Saturday. Finals from earlier. The Nets over the Hawks in Brooklyn, 114 to 102. Mikal Bridges scored 38 points. One game in action right now down in Miami on NBA TV. The Jazz lead the Heat 59-55. Colin Sexton with 12 points. Games coming up later on today. Trailblazers in Memphis to meet the Grizzlies. Tip-off coming up at 5. Memphis favored by 1.5. 5:30 on ABC. The Nuggets are in Los Angeles to take on the Lakers. Right now, Denver favored by 1.5. In Phoenix, the Rockets and Suns tip off at 6. Phoenix favored by 9.5. And that is your NBA scoreboard report. Taking a look at the standings right now in the association. Boston is way out in front in the Eastern Conference. 8 games in front of Cleveland and Milwaukee. The Knicks are 12.5 back. They're in 4th. Philadelphia, 13 games back in 5th. Orlando, 13.5 games back. They're in 6th. And right now, Miami, Indiana, Chicago, and Atlanta are your 4 play-in teams, 7 through 10. In the Western Conference, Minnesota continues to lead the West at 42-18. They're a half game in front of Oklahoma City. Denver is 1 game back at 41-19. The Clippers, 3 games back in 4th at 38-20. And then you've got the Suns and Pelicans, who are each 6.5 games back in 5 and 6. Your play-in teams right now, 7 through 10, Sacramento, Dallas, Golden State, and the LA Lakers, who are 9.5 games back at 33-28. And then there's a big drop-off from the has-beens, Utah, Houston, Memphis, Portland, and San Antonio. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the 10 teams right now in the West, 1 through 10, it'll be some combination of those teams who will be in the Western Conference playoffs. All right, elsewhere from the game last night, Jabari Walker, solid performance, 19 points and 10 rebounds. He led the way last night in the Blazers' 30-point victory over the Grizzlies. He spoke after the game.
Yeah, that was Coach. WAP struggled from 3 at the beginning of the game, and Coach came in the timeout. He said, "Man, that's the shots we need. I don't care how many we miss. That's how we're going to live and die by." So as long as we had that confidence, we had WAP, told him to keep shooting. The shots weren't falling for a couple other guys, told him to keep shooting, and it turned around in the second half.
Jabbar, there's so many things offensively that we could talk about, but I'd like to talk about the defense. I thought you guys' point of attack defense and connectedness on the defensive end really just fed your pace and opportunity offensively. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was his mindset. On the board it said stop the bleeding today, and that was the mindset. Also, Coach said before he got out, he said he didn't care how it got done, he just wanted to get done. So it started off ugly, but we knew as long as the score was in our favor at the end of the day, that was a success for us.
To that point, stop the bleeding. To get a victory and just refresh and get some good vibes. You haven't had that in a bit, so to have that, where do you go from here, and just how does that, the cliche question, how does it feel, but really to get that win and reset, what does it do for you guys?
Right, I think I'm starting to learn that the league is kind of momentum. You have a good game, you pick up off of that, you get wins, you pick up off of that, so hopefully we can just keep running with this momentum, take a note of the recipe that we had today and keep going in the future.
All right, there's Jabari Walker. Really like him. He put in so much work during the offseason, and he's played so much better in year number 2. That's the type of leap I'm looking for from Scoot Henderson, right? Love to see these young guys put in the time and with that show more production. But he was talking about the defense, and once again, Chauncey Billups very happy with this team's defensive effort.
Well, that's kind of what we try to hang our hat on that side of the ball. That's the one thing that there's so many things in the game that you can't control. Shot making, if the ball's going to go in the basket. I think defensively you can control your effort, and that's what we try to do, every single night. And tonight we did. We guarded pretty well. I thought we finished our defensive possessions with rebounds. So we was all over the place. We had so many guys. We picking up the floor, full court, and just laying it on the line. And we live with the results.
There you go. So the Blazers, better defense last night, better production from numerous guys who were on the floor. As I mentioned with Jabari Walker, 19 points, 10 rebounds, had a couple of assists. He was 7 of 9 from the floor, 1 of 1 from downtown. I don't know what exactly he's going to be in the future in the NBA, but I know that he's carved out a role. I don't know if he's going to be a starter, but definitely a guy who can be a role player. Off the bench, providing energy, his instincts as a rebounder. Like, that's going to take him places. Tamani Kamara last night only put up 5 shots, played 20 minutes, but showcased some of that defensive effort. Jeremy Grant, 10 points, 4 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from downtown. And they got 7 points on 3 of 9 shooting from Anthony Simons. That's probably the best takeaway there. Throughout the night, they were combined 7 of 19, Grant and Simons, for a combined 17 points, and yet the Trailblazers won by 30. And that's because everyone else was able to step up and get the job done. Dewap Reef broke out of the shooting slump, 8 of 16 from the floor, 18 points, 5 boards, had an assist, and he did that in 23 minutes of action. Matisse Thybulle, 5 of 10 from the floor, 13 points in 26 minutes. Ashton Hagans had one of his better games, 6 points, 5 assists, couple of rebounds in 24 minutes of action. He was 2 of 5 shooting. And then that effort from Delano Banton. 20 minutes, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 5 from downtown. He was terrific. And then Moses Brown, who was able to make the return from the wrist injury, played nearly 9 minutes, 7 points on 3 of 3 shooting. I mean, that's everyone. I mean, every single guy that you look at throughout the course of the lineup able to step up and contribute in that victory. And look, I know it's tough right now. 16 wins on the year. We've got to look for these small victories. And I just like seeing the younger guys step up and make contributions and help power this team to a victory. And we'll see if they're able to go out there and replicate that tonight. I mean, that's really what I'm paying attention to right now. I just wish Scoot was on the floor, but it's these young guys. Dewap Reef has been a good find. He was critical last night. I want to see Chris Murray. It'd be nice to see him put together back-to-back games where he shoots the ball better. 5 of 8 shooting last night. I mean, it's a great opportunity for these young guys, whether it be Walker or Banton or Chris Murray. Tamani Kamara still getting a chance to play and play a ton. And he's one of those guys that is very aware of his game. He knows he can be a defensive stopper, but he understands that in order to take that next step that he's got to improve his offense. And he's working hard to be able to do that. And we'll see how things continue. But he was able to do that in the loss to Miami. He shot the ball well. He came out in this game against Memphis and played more of a defensive role and didn't look to put up the shots. But, being aware of who you are and what your weaknesses are and knowing where you need to work on your game, I think that's important. And what I've seen from the young guys so far, whether it's Kamara or Scoot or Jabari Walker, a willingness to put in the time. And that's what it takes. You got to put in the time. You got to grind. You got to listen to your coaches. You got to learn how to look at film. And then you've got to put in the extra time by yourself in the gym working on your game. And so far, the young guys have been able to do that. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on Blazer Game Day. Tip-off is coming up at 5 o'clock. When we come back, we'll step into the coach's corner, and we'll hear from Chauncey Billups following the Blazers' victory last night. Tip-off at 5, and then they're back at it on Monday in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. Game Day will start at 2:30, tip-off at 5 here on 620 Rip City Radio.
There, wrap it up.
All right, Blazers game day, Chad doing here. The Blazers coming off a 30-point win, 122-92 last night in Memphis. Good defense, good rebounding. They forced 23 turnovers. They dished out 31 assists. They shot over 40% from downtown. They dominated the second half, outscoring the Grizzlies 71-47. So a lot of, takeaways for Coach Billups and his staff. They got to like what they saw in that performance last night with so many different guys stepping up. Let's check in with Coach Billups following the victory.
I think you said it, Brooke. I mean, we did it together, It's just good to kind of get that monkey off your back, if you will. We've been playing so hard and think we've been playing well. We just haven't been able to come out with a victory, in quite a while. So it's good for that to happen for us. I mean, there's so many guys. They all contributed in the game, but I thought Chris, obviously a career high for him. He continues to just keep getting better. He did a really good job tonight. Ashton, 3 blocks. That dude is just a little pit bull. I just love him. I just love him. He leaves it out there every single time. But so many guys, I thought Moses' minutes were huge for us. Just getting him back into the lineup, having that type of size and rebounding, and he finished around the basket was good for us as well. Jabari gets a double-double. So many guys played well. We created, a lot of opportunities, and we obviously shot it well, tonight from 3. And that a lot of times has kind of failed us lately. We just hadn't shot it great, but played pretty good. So it was good to get that one. And hopefully our guys get some rest, and we look forward to the challenge again tomorrow.
Hey, Coach, as well as you played offensively, defense you played 48 minutes of from beginning to end. What would you contribute that to?
Well, that's kind of what we try to hang our hat on that side of the ball. That's the one thing that there's so many things in the game that you can't control. Shot making, if the ball's going to go in the basket. I think defensively you can control your effort. And that's what we try to do. Every single night. And tonight we did. We guarded pretty well. I thought we finished our defensive possessions with rebounds. So we was all over the place. We had so many guys. We picking up the floor, full court, and just laying it on the line. And we live with the results.
Specifically, Delano tonight. He seemed to have the ball in his hands a lot, and made good decisions. What did you like about his game?
Yeah, he did. Delano's just he got a knack to score the ball. And I always want him to be aggressive. He got a nice feel for the game out there. He knows how to get to the basket. He does a good job of drawing fouls, but he also can play make some. He came into the game, and I thought his minutes were huge for us, because there are times that you got to sit Anthony and you got to sit Jeremy, and you're looking around saying, where we going to get some offense from? And he steps right in and does a really good job of he stayed poised, out there. So yeah, he was also big.
All right, there's Coach Billups after the Blazers' 30-point win last night in Memphis. Tip-off is coming up at 5 o'clock. I wanted you to hear a bit of our conversation from a couple of days ago with Sean Hyken from the Rose Garden Report. Good friend of the show, does a heck of a job. And, he shared his thoughts on a couple of things, starting with the draft. I was curious, this draft is not like last year's draft where we had multiple guys, Brandon Miller, obviously Wemby, Scoot Henderson at the top that could potentially be franchise-changing type players. This draft is not looked at the same. So I asked Sean, how does the Trailblazers front office view the draft this year? Here's what he had to say.
I think there were probably a few guys that they like, but it's like I've asked, people with other teams, who they like in the draft. And it's like there's not, like last year, it was like everybody knew that Victor Wembanyama was the number 1 guy. There wasn't even any like contrarian, maybe it's somebody else. Like everybody knew that it was that, and pretty much everybody knew that it was like Scoot and Brandon Miller in the next tier, and then the Twins and a couple other guys in the tier. There was kind of a breakdown of it, but you talk to 10 different front offices, you're probably going to get 10 different orders of guys that they think are going to be or that they think are worthy of being the number one pick, or 10 different, some prospect that's some guy like one of the guys from the G League Ignite, Modest Bazella. Some teams have top 5, some teams have outside of the lottery. Like it's so like there's nobody in this draft like a Wemby last year, or what people think Cooper Flagg is going to be next year, where you feel like you draft this guy, you're getting like a future franchise cornerstone. I think there are guys that I think teams like, but I actually had someone tell me, a couple days ago that this draft is normal as far as the talent level if you start at the 5th pick. So basically, the number 1 pick in the draft this year is probably, in terms of the talent level and the value of the pick, probably similar to what the number 5 pick would be in a normal draft. If that makes sense. So like the top end of it is not. It doesn't have the ceiling or have the star potential of, what you would expect a normal, top 2 or 3 in a draft to have. But there's usually, 6 or 7 guys in each draft at the minimum that pop, that end up being stars, or at least end up being like really high end starters or productive players. It just might not be the first 7 guys taken in the draft. And this draft, I think, is even more so like that.
John, do you see this summer being the summer where they're holding on to a few, tradable assets? Could this be the summer where they go all in and make the move to bring in a young player who can start forming forward and, maybe even a high pick in the future, something like that? But could this be the time, given the lack of success the last 2 years and then this year?
I think they definitely want to do some stuff this summer. I don't know. When you say make the move, like, I don't think they're really looking at, what they were talking about looking at doing last summer before Damian Lillard asked for the trade, when they had the number 3 pick and they thought they could trade that for like a star. I don't think it's that sort of. I don't think that sort of move is necessarily coming. But I do think they feel like they can't just run back this team and say, well, we just hope everybody stays healthier and everybody grows. They're gonna have to. I mean, financially, they're also just gonna have to consolidate some stuff. Like I think Malcolm Brogdon, now that he's gonna be on an expiring deal going into next year, I think they probably have to do something there. And a couple of those other guys they might have to make some decisions on. But I definitely think there will be changes this summer, and pretty big ones. I just don't know about like what you refer to as like the big move. Like I don't know if they're quite there yet. They might be a year away from that still.
Do you think they're still committed to keeping the 3 guards together, Ant, Shaden, and Scoot?
At least for one more year, unless like an absolutely perfect offer comes along. And by perfect offer, I mean like whatever their version of, like, remember when the Kings traded Tyrese Halliburton to the Pacers and they got Domantas Sabonis, and now like the Pacers now have Halliburton as like their guy that they're building around. That's their franchise guy, and it wasn't somebody that they drafted, but it was somebody that they traded for in the first couple of years of their career that was kind of still on the upswing and turned into a fringe MVP candidate once he got to Indiana. If there's a deal out there for, I don't know even who that would be necessarily, but for somebody of that caliber that's, still on their rookie deal, still young and fits positionally with 2 of those 3 guards, somebody on the wing perhaps, or, someone in the front court, that I think would be something they would look at for that, whoever that may be. But at least for right now, I think they don't feel like they're under any pressure to make a decision about which 2 of those 3 guards to keep right now. Now, going into next season, you have to remember, going into the 25-26 season, Shaden Sharp is going to be eligible for the rookie extension, and Anthony Simons is going to be going into the last year of his contract. So they're going to have to make some decisions there, and then we'll see what Scoot turns into in his second season coming up. But I think they're a year away from actually a hard deadline to make any sort of decision on that.
All right, Sean, what are you working on right now to keep an eye out for with the Rose Garden Report? There you go, Sean Hyken sharing his thoughts on the draft and on this summer. So, he thinks that they might keep the guards together for at least one more year, but did acknowledge that this summer could be the time where they look to go out there and make something happen. And that would be nice. To go out and find a legit forward to throw in the starting lineup, I would like that. I could get behind that, so they can, just have some consistency with the lineup. And that's really what this team needs more than anything. It's just consistency. Same starting five, game in and game out, develop continuity, develop an understanding of one another to where you can really start to play. That's been the hardest part. Also, on a side note, Xavier Worthy just ran a 4.240 at the combine. I don't know what it's like to run a 4.240, but I would like to know what it feels like to be able to run that fast. 4.240. There aren't too many guys doing that. Good gracious. That is so fast. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on Game Day. We'll come back with your Coors Light cold hard facts. We'll get to our keys to the game a little bit later in the show. We're also going to hear from Chris Murray coming off his good shooting night against Memphis. We'll hear from him as well. Chad Doing with you. Curtis Long standing by. You'll have your Trailblazer pregame show coming up at 4 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, your Coors Light cold hard fact today. Chris Murray has got to make shots. That's his calling card. That's his strength, and that's what's going to take him places in the NBA. He has shown a willingness to defend, and I think also an underrated rebounder. He's been very aggressive since entering the starting lineup, attacking the offensive glass and getting after it, which is nice to see. But there's such a premium on shooting in the NBA, and at his position, for him to be that 3-and-D, he's got to knock it down. And it reminds me of former Trailblazer Luke Babbitt. I was at a Adidas Superstar Camp in Sewanee, Georgia, back in 2006. And Luke Babbitt was one of the players who were there. The other guys were Michael Beasley. He was tremendous in the camp. Eric Gordon, who is still playing in the NBA. And both those guys, Gordon and Beasley, were the co-MVPs of the camp. But Luke Babbitt was one of those guys who was there, and everyone raved about his shooting. And he was a big-time shot maker. But the problem is, and this happens to a lot of guys, good shooters in college, good guys, good shooters who can make shots in practice, but when the lights go on in the arena and it's game time, they aren't shot makers. And there's a difference between doing it in college, doing it in practice, and then being able to make shots in an NBA game. And it's one of those skills that, you either have or you don't. So for Chris Murray, the key is, he's got to make shots. And as he continues to get an opportunity, he's got to shoot. He's got to continue to shoot, and he's got to do it with confidence. They need that from him. And last night he was able to do that with 14 points on 5 of 8 shooting, and hopefully that's something that will continue. But he had a chance to talk after the Blazers' victory last night. Let's take a listen.
Chris, how much did you guys need this win tonight, and how good does it feel here in the locker room after?
It definitely feels good. Everything came together tonight. Offensively, we were really good. Shared the ball really well. Defensively, I felt like we played a complete game and didn't let them get on any runs, really. So it was kind of the perfect storm for us for that to happen. We had good games where we had good offensive games, but maybe not defensive, and good defensive games, but maybe the shots weren't falling. So today was just a really good testament of just the growth we've made throughout the All-Star break.
Congratulations to you on your career high tonight in points. What were you seeing from their defense that you were able to attack?
Yeah, I knew that if I was able to hit shots a little bit early, that everything else would kind of open up. And Coach trusted me with the ball, so I was able to kind of break off a couple plays where I saw an opening. So it was, for me, I know I was in a slump like the last few games, but it just wasn't losing confidence and just keep playing as hard as I can, keep taking the same good shots that I've been taking. They'll fall eventually.
And defensively, you guys were flying around from beginning to end, all 4 quarters. Is that something you guys wanted to focus on tonight?
Yeah, we just wanted to take them out of their stuff. And I think we did that really well, just ball pressure and make them turn their backs to us and make them take the whole shot clock. I think we had like 6 shot clock violations in the last 3 games or something like that. And it's just how hard we play on defense every time. And we want teams to kind of think that it's going to be a tough night when they play us. And it happened tonight, and we were able to keep them under 100, and that was really cool.
Jabari just said a couple minutes ago that you guys had to walk through. You just focused on communication, and he said that was key to tonight's win. Would you agree? Yeah, it's huge. We knew we wanted to limit their transition opportunities because we knew if we get them in the half court, our half-court defense is really good, and that's all communication. That's all it is, and just pointing guys in the right direction. We did a really good job of that tonight, and it showed. How can this carry over to tomorrow night?
Just keep doing the same thing. Keep bringing the intensity that we brought today and to tomorrow, and just keep trusting each other. Keep communicating, like you said, and it'll fall into place.
All right, there's Chris Murray following the victory last night. 14 points, 5 of 8 shooting. They need more of that from him. But the communication, I think, is critical. And the Blazers last night, with the rebounding, when you control the glass, you can play the game at your tempo, and you can allow your you can run the sets the way you want. They did a better job of getting back on defense. They limited Memphis's transition opportunities. In the game, the fast break points, Blazers had an 18-8 edge. A lot of that was due to their defense and forcing 23 turnovers. But that's the type of stuff you want to see right there. For the young guys out there, giving energy, getting after it, being aggressive, and being willing to defend. And they limited Memphis to 44% shooting, just 37% from beyond the arc. They forced the turnovers. They gave themselves opportunities. And, that's what more can you ask for? Let's see here. Right now, the Trailblazers, 20th in the NBA in defensive efficiency. So it's better. It's not great, but they're trending or at least moving in a better direction, which is good. Your top teams, no surprise. Minnesota, best team in the Western Conference. Cleveland, second in the East. Boston, top in the East. Orlando, one of the better teams in the East. Oklahoma City, one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Houston, not surprising considering who their coach is, Ime Udoka. New Orleans having a good year. Miami, understandable with Eric Spoelstra. Denver, number 9. And then you've got the New York Knicks. And that's not a surprise with their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. But that's usually how it works. Your best teams are typically near the top. Your title contenders are usually top 10 defensive teams. And all of the contenders that you would expect to be there in the top 10 are. So that's where you want the Blazers to get to. You want them to become and emerge over the course of time to become a top 10 defensive team. And that's when people can really start to take you seriously. Like these other teams that are kind of fringe contenders, Sacramento having a good year, they're 21st. Golden State, 18th. Milwaukee right now, 17th. Lakers are 16th. The Clippers are 14th. Suns are 13th. So, again, for a lot of these teams, they're good, but come playoff time, can they be good enough defensively to get the job done? Because playoff basketball, I've talked about this before. I think most of you understand this. The reason why playoff basketball is so different than regular season basketball is that in the regular season, and I've seen this in locker rooms before, like they'll have a basic scouting report. So when you walk into a locker room before a game, you usually post it up on the walls like a scouting report. And it's got a few lines under each player in terms of what to look for, their strengths, their weaknesses, how to attack them. And, you know, teams fly in, they play a game, they fly out, and they move on to the next city and get ready for the next game. But come playoff time, you have one opponent for 2 weeks over the course of a 7-game series. And you get this break before the postseason begins. So what NBA coaches do is they actually go to work. They go over the tape, the data, the matchup, and they just go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So whatever your weaknesses are, they will attack. They'll try to limit your strengths. Like there's a full-on game plan, and it's in-depth. So what you're facing come postseason time is just better defense, better preparation, teams who are focused in on your weaknesses and trying to exploit that. And the best teams with their coaching staff and their players, once they understand your weaknesses, they just continue to attack. And that's why it's so hard for the lesser team to win a 7-game series, because the better team with the better talent who executes better over the course of 7 games, usually the best team will come out on top. I mean, it's hard to disguise that or to mask or to hide your deficiencies over the course of a 2-week period in a 7-game series, because the best teams will know it and they just continue to attack it and they force you to stop it. And usually when you can't make that adjustment, you get beat. And that's why it's important to continue to improve in those aspects. You know, the Blazers better defensively this year, but they've got a lot of work to do. But I love hearing guys talk about communication, talk about the importance of defense, and find pleasure in performing on that end. You want more guys like that, obviously. All right, we'll come back. We'll give you the keys to the game. Tip-off is nearing. It's coming up at 5, Blazers and Grizzlies, second of a back-to-back for your Portland Trail Blazers. And my man Curtis Long is standing by with your Trailblazer pregame show at 4 across the Trailblazer Radio Network. So hope you're enjoying this cool and wet day in the Northwest. A lot of basketball action today. We got some NBA. Blazers are going to play at 5, and a lot of big-time college basketball games going on. All right, tip-off's coming up at 5. Keys to the game coming up next. Chad Doing with you. It's Game Day on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, keys to the game, more of the same. In fact, I want to see the exact same things. A commitment to rebound as a team. There's no DeAndre Ayton tonight, so you're going to want the guys crashing the glass so they can control the defensive glass and play at the tempo they want, and then give themselves opportunities with those second chance points by crashing the offensive glass. So we want to see more of that. They were plus 16 last night. Also, continued effort to move bodies and move the basketball. 31 assists last night, which is terrific. They shot the ball well, over 50%. They were over 40% from downtown. So I want to see them hit the 30 assist mark again. That's a good plateau. Hit 30, and I feel pretty good about that. And then outside of that, just make sure that you communicate and continue to communicate and get after it defensively. And if they can do those things, I feel pretty good about where they're at. So let's see what they can do, and hopefully they'll get multiple guys to step up and make contributions tonight. And maybe either Ant or Grant will, get it cooking a little bit so they can take pressure off of some of the other youngsters who are going to have to step up and make plays. I was looking back at my season projections for the Trailblazers this year, and I listed these out as I do every year. I said Simons will thrive in a lead role and average 25-plus points per game. I would say that Anthony Simons, he had that injury to start the year. He has played well, but I think he struggled a little bit. And I guess what I didn't anticipate with Anthony Simons this year was just the challenge of not having Dame on the floor and facing a defense like he's never seen before. Teams are attacking him. He's seeing two guys. He's seeing, teams try to take him away because they understand that he's their best offensive option, and it's made life tough. Simons so far this year, averaging 22 points per game, connecting on 42% of his shots, and connecting on 37% of his threes. So he's close to that mark, but at times has struggled to handle the rock underneath the immense pressure he's facing. His handle not as good as Dame's or some of the other, guys who are in that position. But, all in all, he's played well. And it's been tough because of the guys who have been in and out, in and out. The constant lack of continuity has been a problem. I projected 25 to 30 wins. Tough schedule, youth, and trade deadline will have a major impact. Well, the 25 to 30 wins, it's going to be close to 25. I would say right now they trend more to be a 20 to 25 win team. They've got 16 wins right now with 24 games to go. So they'll probably hit somewhere between 20 and 25. Of course, I did not anticipate the lengthy injury list, which is piled up throughout the course of the year. They lead the league in games played by rookies and are among the league leaders. At last check, I think they were number 2 in games lost due to injury. So that's been a big problem for them. Bottom 5 in defensive rating between 25 and 30. As I mentioned before, they're a notch up. They're 20th in the NBA right now in defensive rating. I said expect growing pains with youth. Scoot will finish second to Wemby in Rookie of the Year voting. Well, that's not going to happen. My guess is it'll go Wemby and then probably Brandon Miller. Now, Scoot has not been as good this year as we all thought he would be. Got off to a very rough start. His start to the season was brutal. The recent stretch has been great, but he's been out since the All-Star break with that adductor strain. So he hasn't been available enough, and his play's been spotty at best, although he was trending in the right direction before the All-Star break. I said the team is incredibly thin at forward, and depth is a major issue. Well, that's absolutely been the case. They are thin at forward, and depth has been an issue. Thankfully for them, they found guys like DeWap Reef who have been able to step in and do an admirable job. And because of that, he got a new contract. The team will not be quick to move Brogdon or Williams, but offers will heat up around the deadline as losses pile up for Portland and contenders develop needs. Well, that turned out to be true. Brogdon and Williams are both on the roster. Brogdon, a bit of a surprise that he was not moved before the deadline, but he's still here. The Blazers believe they can get better offers come summertime. And then Williams, of course, suffered the knee injury early in the season and has been unable to play. So we'll see what their plan is with Robert Williams as he continues to get healthy coming off knee surgery. Team will likely fall into the bottom 10 in offensive efficiency and three-pointers made. A tough combination with their defensive issues. The biggest question, can Coach Billups get the players to play the way he wants them to play? And that remains the big question. Let's see where the Blazers are right now with their offensive rating, offensive efficiency. Where do they stack up with the rest of the NBA? Right now, Portland is next to last, 29th in offensive efficiency. That's a problem. That's a lack of talent. That's a lack of continuity with the lineup. Let's see here. 3-point NBA team, 3-point shooting. Let's see where they're at with three-pointers. I would imagine it's about the same. Probably next to last. They're 27th. 27th in the NBA in three-pointers, 29th in offensive efficiency. And then my final thought was, team is lottery bound again. It's a rebuild for the franchise. Season is not about wins and losses. Focuses on player development and talent asset acquisition. And we know that's true because Chauncey Billups indicated that a couple of games ago, that, right now it's about player development. That's the number one priority. And he's trying to find a balance between making an effort to win games but still get time for the young guys to continue to develop them. So that's where we're at. Now, the good news is, as I mentioned before, and I think most of you see this, Cronin and his staff have done a good job at acquiring assets. And now it's just a matter of being able to put those things together and go out there and bring in the players that you think can be a part of this team moving forward long term. They've got draft picks. They've got cap flexibility. I believe Andrew Nicholson's stretch is finally off the books, which is nice. They've got veteran pieces they can work with. So they've got options now moving forward to go out and continue this process of reshaping the team with Dame's exit. So we'll see how that all works out. But that's where we're at. And it's frustrating. Look, I understand. I talked to a lot of season ticket holders. I understand the frustration. 3 straight years of just brutal basketball. But at least they made a choice. They had a plan, they made a choice, and they picked a direction. And they chose to go young. So, we can't worry about, the last couple of years. It's all about their decision they made and now what it's going to require for them to continue to move forward and to acquire the right players to, put this team back together the way they want. So we'll see how things shake out. I hope that DeAndre Ayton can remain engaged and continue to be a dominant force for them down the stretch. I like DeAndre Ayton. I do. I like him. I think he got a raw deal to some extent down in Phoenix, the way that they kind of punked him with the contract negotiations. This was an opportunity for him to get a fresh start with a new team, a team that truly wants him, and I hope he makes the most of it because his talent, when he's engaged, he can be a difference maker out there. And you can see the pieces. You go out and find yourself a forward to play next to Grant, all of a sudden your front court's a little more solidified. And then they can, at some point make a decision on what they want to do with the guards. But with the other veteran pieces they have, guys that won't be here for the extended period of time, Malcolm Brogdon, potentially Robert Williams. We'll see how that plays out. And then, Matisse Thybulle, they got guys that can move to continue to flesh out the roster. So I like where they're at. It's been a long time. For the longest period of time, they didn't have a lot of flexibility with cap and with draft picks because of some of the bad moves that Olshey had made. And now they're in a position where they can finally get out there and do something and reshape the team. So, we'll see how things shake out. Hopefully, Scoot will get back on the floor by Wednesday, and we can watch him play and get a chance to develop down the stretch. That's going to be critical. But tonight, rebound as a team, move bodies, move the basketball, get that assist number up to 30, and then, just continue to protect the basketball. They did a great job last night of protecting the ball and forcing turnovers. And out of that, they generated some easy buckets in transition. And I'd like to see more of that tonight. All right, here's what we got coming up. Curtis Long is going to have your Trailblazer pregame show. That's going to go from 4 until 5. Tip-off at 5 with the Blazers and Grizzlies. Travis Demers and Michael Holton on the call. And then I'll be back after the game for the 5th quarter right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Enjoy the Trailblazer pregame show. Enjoy the game, my friends. I'll talk to you after the game here on the 5th quarter.